Howdy, cosmic friends and neighbors. Welcome to the Franki 411 podcast. I'm your host, Haleigh Overstone. And yes, you could call me Franki. What's the 411 on today's episode? Let's dive in and find out. Well, hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us on another episode of the Franki 411 podcast. I am here with Jana Belugina, and I do think that you sound like you have the prettiest princess name. I really do. From bean to being, please do give the audience an introduction to you, because I love that you are the only person in the world I know of who has found a way to put coffee and mindfulness together, even though society tells us we're supposed to give up coffee as one of the bad habits we have.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm introduction. I love that.
You do. You have a pretty princess name, and you talk about two of my favorite things, coffee and mindfulness. And I think that, it's just so very perfect. I love it.
Very interesting, that you mentioned that society thinks that coffee is not good for us. While I was just reading and watching few latest researches in the scientific researches in the space, saying that coffee is actually good for you, and it's full of fiber, and it's really good for your heart health. And apparently those who give up coffee for good and don't drink it at all are cutting 5 years of their lives. So,
Haha.
something.
We win. Coffee lovers unite and celebrate. We win.
Exactly.
We're not supposed to be kicking the habit. It's totally fine.
Exactly. Yeah. But I've been on the both sides of the spectrum, because I've been on a very extreme, spiritual journey. No coffee, like no alcohol, no
Right.
parties, all that, no coffee even. I remember that my
Deny
mom.
yourself of human pleasures because we believe that
Exactly,
they're
yeah.
somehow not spiritual also.
Exactly. Even my mom told
But-
me at some point, she was like, "You're so, like, your life is so boring."
It's so much. Yeah. Didn't you come to this human existence to have a little bit of fun and enjoy yourself? Have a cup of coffee.
So yeah, so I've been on that side of spectrum, and now I'm on another side when coffee wise, when I'm really deeply in the coffee journey, and enjoying coffee, and learning more about coffee and diving deep from the professional point of view. And I think that my spiritual journey is kind of like this golden middle at the moment. So yeah.
Isn't that what we're all looking for? Being in that middle space so that you can really just create from ease and peace and fun, right? That's where we're trying to be.
Yes, I think that's where we're trying to be, but it seems that this whole space of well-being, self-awareness, mindfulness, you name it, I
Right.
feel that it is going through an extreme, because what I see is it became so commercial, and
Yes.
it's kind of positioned as being very difficult. So what I see the trend, and what my mission is to kind of like fix it, is that there is a trend that, there's clearly a trend for mindfulness and living this spiritual kind of journey, being self-aware and reflection and so on and so on. But in order to do that, we are often told that, you need to study this, you need this guru, you need to be aware of that, you need to read this book, you need to go to that retreat. Blah, blah,
Taking it
blah.
all far too seriously for it to be healthy at this point.
Yes, exactly. So what I'm saying is that it became an industry, and that industry kind of forces you to make things unnecessarily complicated. And that's why I created the project Bean to Being, which is basically mindfulness through coffee, because I enjoy coffee, and this is part of my professional side. So I do study coffee, I do research coffee, and I'm very, very passionate.
I do love the story though of how you kind of came to this coffee journey.
sure.
So do give us a little bit of that, because I just think it's such a
Sure.
fun, lovely, and it's great because you did start, or you have been in the space of taking it very seriously and thinking you need to deny yourself like the pleasures of this human experience, right, in order to get yourself to whatever enlightenment space we're all supposed to be in or what have you, right?
Yeah.
So from that kind of space and being able to shift to where you are, right? Let's go through that journey just a little bit because I do think it's fun and very relatable.
How I came bringing coffee into mindfulness space is like I've been on the mindfulness journey for like a couple of decades, and I'm a spiritual mentor and a mindfulness teacher, and I'm a coach, and so on and so on. And it was last year, yeah, a year ago. I was good. Normally, once a year, I do this challenge for myself when I go kind of like opening up new energies. And I do that by trying new things and exposing myself to new experiences. So I would completely disrupt my normal routine. And like instead of yoga, I will go for a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class. Instead of meditation, I go to nightclub, and like, like
I
completely the
shift
opposite. Yeah.
shift the energies. You got to move something, right?
Yeah. So I normally do that for like a couple of weeks, and that includes food choices as well. So I would go out and eat something that I normally would never order. Just
Okay.
just for the sake of like saying like maybe, my preferences have changed. Maybe I will experience something new and so on.
Maybe something new and magical will be my next favorite thing.
And it's actually always the case because I always explore some new preference. I'm like, I thought like I like, chocolate chip cookies, but apparently I like peanut butter now better.
But
It's like,
yeah,
no, it's something new. And when I was doing it last year, uh I remember that I was like, I was like at the end of the week one, and I was in the cafe, and I just like had my breakfast. I ordered something like very untypical for me, and then I was like ordering a coffee, after my meal, and as usual, I'm like oat milk cappuccino, and then I'm like, oh wait, hang on a minute.
hmm
That's what I had realized is, being so aware again, I'm so aware. I'm so full of myself. I'm so aware. I
yeah.
know how to shift all this energy as well. And I had this huge, huge, absolutely blind spot. I kept on ordering the same coffee over and for years, for years. So that was never part of that yearly experiment. So I was like, wait, let's explore. And I just reflected there, and I asked myself, what is it that I want now? Do I want more coffee? Do I want more meal? Do I really wanted oatmeal? I think I ended up ordering like almond milk cortado or something like
Yeah.
something different. And from that day, I started trying different coffees because I was like, oh, that's like such an interesting area to explore. And that's how I ended up exploring, the specialty coffee world. And then I got interested. Then I started chatting with baristas, and I felt like, okay, like I need to explore it. So I signed up for specialty coffee trainings.
You're
And
like the
yeah,
sommelier for coffees, right? Like,
yes, yes, and it's just been a beautiful journey because I met such an interesting people, and also I travel a lot. So now, like when I travel, I always try to go to the local roasteries, meet the local producers, connect with them, and like and I coach for coffee as well because I realize there is so much reflection that we can do for coffee. Like, how was your coffee this morning? What did you feel? What did you feel before? What did you feel after? What did you feel during? What were you thinking? Why specifically this coffee? And it's like, it's so beautiful. Just this morning, I was having a cup of Yemeni coffee, and I know the producers, they're dear friends of mine. And I was posting on Instagram that like, oh, this coffee, made me pause. Actually, as being like, trained on the coffee sensory, I stopped that extreme as well. I stopped
mhm.
analyzing coffee and breaking it down on the sensory, but I shifted to how it makes me feel.
Mhm.
And and I like gave them a review that this is like, I don't want to break it down, what notes we feel, what's the evaluation, and so on and so on. But what I want to say is that it actually made me stop, that coffee really grounded like me and centered me. And I remember that after the first sip, I'm like, oh, I want to take a sip. And I really want to focus.
I
And
really that's so great, like, instead of the flavor profile of it or the things
exactly,
that are traditional, what is the energetic signature you get from this coffee?
exactly,
What are you receiving
exactly.
energetically? That's a really I love that perspective shift, I think that's really great, like,
I think
but
that's where the industry is going, because I think that we're like both industries. So like my work is basically I'm always finding the similarities in how the coffee
yeah,
industry
the
develops and how
synergy,
our
right? Like,
self
it's amazing
consciousness
how, like, when the universe guides you to where you're supposed to be,
always comes together, and we can
yeah.
see that this mindfulness and self-consciousness space shifts more inward, and we stop chasing all this gurus and new teachings and all these new modalities, and we kind of turn inwards more. And the same, I think, with coffee. The fourth wave is coming in the sense that I really believe that we will stop, clinging on this evaluation, and we will more tune into how this cup makes me feel. So yeah, I think it's a new trend. Pretty sure it's coming.
No, I really love that. I think that is just so much more it is like that next evolution of consciousness, right? Like, it's one thing for us as humans to translate the flavor profile information and catalog it and give it labels and categories, right? But I do think that to a certain extent, and in the spiritual realm too, that's a little bit where we become too scientific about it, right? Like, we
Yes,
remove the energy, the emotion, and that sort of vibrational value from it by giving it too many labels, by doing the overthinking thing that we're so very
yes,
good at doing, which is completely opposite of the point of why you went into why you're doing it, right? Like, it's a sort of like a hamster wheel we tend to get caught in. But I do
yes.
think that that is the shift, and that's where we're going, right? To the stay with the abstract, with the energy, right? Don't have such a need to do the labels.
I think it's like what's important on this whole self-awareness journey is just relying on ourselves, because we're going on this journey, the spiritual journey. It's sold to us as the path to freedom and abundance, and like this beautiful life.
Love, and this is where you get to have walking into the sunset.
But like it's sold to us that in order to achieve that, we kind of rely always on this external source that will give
Right.
it to us.
Mhm.
While if we really look at all the spiritual teachings, they all talk about us having this wisdom inside and just learning how to tune in. And that we can do not through our head, it's
Right.
always through our heart. So once we start, trusting ourselves and relying on our heart and our feelings, that's when we get the true freedom, because then we're not reliant on anyone external.
Mhm.
We're just here with ourselves. And the same with coffee, because I remember that I was so obsessed with this tasting. And yeah, like I was like I had boxes and boxes of different coffee varieties at home. And every morning I was tasting and I was writing the notes. I had this evaluation journal. And at some point, I was like so frustrated because of the guy. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm
Because we're
confused.
so good as humans at making things that are supposed to be play and joy into homework.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, hang on. I like instead of enjoying my coffee, it I made it my job, and it's just so frustrating. So I just like brewed a cup of coffee, the same coffee that I belated the day before. And I just took a sip and I'm like, oh my God, it tastes so good when I don't think. It's
Mhm.
a different experience. And that's when all this flavor profile and richness, and all that's when they unpack. I'm like,
That's
oh
when you
my
can
God.
appreciate any of it, when it's not homework that you're doing to make the list and say, "I can justify that I know what these names and labels are," right?
Exactly. Just
Not the
switch off
point.
the brain. Just switch off the brain. And that's what gives you the actual true, you know,
That
abundance
really
and
right.
enlightenment.
Right, and and I think that's something I'm trying to lean into, or I'm practicing leaning into a little bit more, the idea of enlightenment being becoming lighter, not
Yes.
more brilliant, not more high level, not that like letting go of all of that garbage
Yeah.
and becoming, lighter as in I'm not carrying the weight of baggage that wasn't meant for me in the first place.
Exactly, because like we're living in very dynamic world. We're all constantly, like we're doing something.
Yeah.
We have overload, sensory overload, mental overload. It's just like lots of things happening. So what I see that like we're going on this spiritual journey or like, let's call it like mindfulness, whatever. And
Mhm.
then we run into the retreat, then we come back from retreat, we get back to our daily lives. Like we completely distance ourselves from that enlightenment that we achieved. Then we're like, oh, we're gonna need to book another retreat. Or like
Can
and
we
it
yeah, can you dig into that just for a little bit? Like, I would love a little bit more of your perspective here. Like, the idea where we are creating this separation between my daily life and, like, vacation life that I want, right? We're
yeah,
creating this separation when really what we want is for, like, that vacation retreat feeling energy to be where we exist on a regular basis,
yes,
right?
yes.
So, what share with us your wisdom because I know that you have some with all of your coffee journeys, Talk to those of us who are still just how do I stop separating those things, and realize that that energy space is something that I can have internally anywhere I am.
Well, I would say that, if we constantly need to run away from our daily life, I would look what are we running away from, to be honest, because it's never, it's never that straightforward. It's not like, oh, I just need vacation. No, something is fundamentally not working in our daily life.
Right.
If we can't if we can't be that, happy while we're there, so we constantly need to run away in this retreat. And then also like there is another side of the coin. What are these retreats? What are like what they symbolize? Because they might be that freedom that we're looking for, that feeling that we're looking for, and how we can implement that feeling into a daily life. So I would say just, kind of like slowly by reflection, bringing those two closer. And most likely, there will be some disruptions because, like, when we go to another level, we always disrupt things. So yes, we might be parting with our job, we might be parting with our friends and our close ones. So that is the process, but that's the process of getting closer to that feelings that we want to feel permanently, and this is possible. And also, I think it's about trusting, just trusting that I have this feeling within me. So, whatever I feel there in those retreats or like those practices that I already have it because I'm capable of feeling it. So, why can't I feel it on a daily basis and just kind of leaning towards that feeling and leaning towards that experience and trusting ourselves and bringing, like cultivating it more and more in our lives slowly, step by step, even if it's just like a daily reminder, setting an alarm clock saying that, like, yeah, you're free, just like,
Yeah.
remember that feeling on the satsang in Sri Lanka, something.
Oh, I love that.
Just cultivating it step by step. But yes, I think that the first things that we need to always ask ourselves, what am I running away from? What is it fundamentally not working in my daily life that I can't constantly be in that state of whatever enlightenment for me is?
Right.
You know?
No, and I do think that that's again a place that a lot of people are finding themselves. But I also again then love the incorporation of coffee and mindfulness because who among us is not making a cup of coffee in the morning, right? It's a certain sort of ritual that we have,
Yeah.
right? And I think that it's a great place to put mindfulness into, right? Or to just put yourself into, okay, when I go through this ritual in the morning, that is already a little bit of a I don't wanna say crutch, that's not necessarily what I mean, but, like, it's something that we do that's like, I have to have my morning coffee, right?
Mhm.
Well, to a certain extent, some of that is I need to go through that ritual that is kind of a mini bit of me time.
It
And
is meditation. It's your
right, like use this as a meditative space for yourself. And maybe talk about that a little bit because you do also do the meditation, like the yoga nidra things on Insight Timer and things like that. But the idea that, it's great to have these meditations, and I do love them. I've tried them and they are super great. I love the visuals and things, right? But the idea of meditation not always having to look like being still with your eyes closed, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. So yeah, that's another thing because we all living a busy lives, and some
Mhm.
people love meditating. Like I love meditation. I can sit anywhere and meditate. Like I just love it. For some people, it's very difficult. So we're all unique. We're all different, and that's okay. So meditate while you brew your coffee because, like, I'm brewing my morning coffee. For me, that's like a good 15 minutes, just, waiting the beans, grinding,
Mhm.
pouring the water, all that. And when I'm doing that, I'm not automating it. I'm always reflecting. I'm trying to just not think about anything else at this moment than just brewing my perfect cup of coffee.
Be
And
present with your coffee.
be present with your coffee. And when I drink my coffee, I also, that's another part of my morning ritual. I always journal. So every morning I journal while I'm drinking my coffee. And I will be doing like gratitude journaling now because like now it's my challenge for the next 300 days. I'm doing the gratitude journaling.
I love it.
And but like you can choose your own practice. You can just like sit and look at the horizon and think, or enjoy coffee, or think of what is it that you want to achieve in your life, and that is form of meditation. I was just recently on a trip with my partner, and we are building a retreat in Sri Lanka, my business partner. And he's a complete opposite of me. So he is not spiritual at all.
Oh, how fun.
His mind is very, very,
More the sort of like business, mechanical, logistical
yeah. And it's like,
oriented.
it's very busy. And he was like telling me, he's like, oh, like I can't meditate. I can't meditate. Like I need to learn how to meditate, but I can't meditate. And then I noticed like every time we're in the car, because they were like long distances we would drive, he would say like, okay, I will listen to the music. And he would sit and listen to the music and look outside the window. And I would sit and meditate for like, I will just close my eyes for half an hour. I just meditate. And then at some point when he started complaining that like he needs to learn to meditate. And I said like, but aren't you meditating when you're listening to your music?
I love
Because
that.
that is your form of meditation. So don't be so hard on yourself that you
Yeah.
can't close your eyes and just like be silent, ignoring all the noises. You do your form of meditation by listening to the music, looking outside of window. I'm sure that calms down your thoughts.
Right.
So
And it doesn't, just because it doesn't look like the traditional like lotus posture meditation doesn't make it less valid.
no, it doesn't. Because anything, like when we work out, that's meditation. When you go for a walk, that's meditation. Sure, like if you go for a walk and you want it to be mindfulness practice, well, then don't put the podcast, in your
Mhm.
headphones or like the music. Just go on the silent walk and be mindful about it, and that becomes your meditation.
Mhm.
So, like it can be dancing is meditation because like by freedom's practice, we call it a moving meditation. We don't call
Mhm.
it a dance practice, right? So anything can be meditation. So I think we should also, kind of like step back a little and stop being so hard on ourselves that like, oh, like I can't sit and switch off my thoughts. That's not the idea of meditation. Meditation is not switching off your thoughts. We can't switch off your thoughts. You'll be
Mhm.
dead if you switch them off, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Right?
part of our human being having thoughts. It's like, this like, oh, like you need to get rid of ego. Well, ego is like
It's a part of
it's
the
part
system.
of
It's
us.
built in. It's,
Yeah, we can't. We will stop thinking if
the
we get rid of
computer doesn't
ego.
work without the motherboard. Like all the component parts are necessary.
Exactly. But just be mindful about it. So yes, you can just like sit, like the meditation is like just being mindful of your thoughts, that you don't engage with your thought patterns. You don't go, into those thought
The loops, right?
processes. You're just like, okay, here's the thought. Okay. I'll think about you later. That's it. That's meditation. That's meditation. Nothing else.
I no, that's actually really great. That I'll think about like, hi there, thought that like wants to knock on the door and bother me all the time. Yes, I see you. I'll be with you in a moment. Like you can go take a seat. I'm aware of you.
But it can be also, and sometimes I get curious because I will be like, oh, like, okay, so who is that little voice in my head? Is it like, are you helping me? Are you protecting me from something? Who are you? So that you
Right.
you keep on coming back, like, nagging. Oh, but who are you? Let's get to meet each other and see whether we need to continue this partnership, or maybe I should release you.
Right.
Mm.
Maybe I think that's you and I were like having that conversation where you were saying just send them on a nice retirement. Just
Yeah, that's how we work with saboteurs. Yeah, this inner critics. That's the technique in the coaching. And I just recently discovered another one because I was telling you. I remember that like I had one. It was, I think, fear of losing money. I had like
mhm.
the really old one, and I sent him on vacation, and then he returned with it was souvenirs in the middle of the night. Yeah, so I had to fire him
With
completely.
souvenirs he returned was I love that.
Like, yeah, and recently I had discovered another saboteur, because which was like it was such a beautiful, actually, power energy,
Mhm.
because it was the energy of a loving mother. So it was a saboteur who was saying to me that, like, you are perfect as you are. You don't need to do anything else. Because I started writing my book and I realized that I'm kind of sabotaging my my habit tracker, like I'm skipping my yoga practice. I'm skipping, like workouts to give me energy to write the book. I was
Mhm.
like, what is happening here? Because it's not like me. And then I like when I went inside and I reflected, I realized that, like, oh, like, I'm not sabotaging my workouts. I'm sabotaging actually writing the book. So it's much bigger. And that guy who's helping me to sabotage it, that little voice in my head, it's not actually negative. It doesn't say anything bad, but it just says, like, listen, you're so perfect. You're so perfect as you are. Don't, like, there is no need. Don't waste your energy on this. What if it doesn't work out? And then, like, you will be disappointed. You're fine. We know you can write a book. That's good. That's good enough. Like, no need to finish it. Just like, cool. I was also, it sounds like my mother, like this overprotective and like
Yeah.
loving energy. And I yeah, and I had to send it on retirement. So I was like, listen, you
Uh,
served me for many years. Now you go on retirement. Let's recruit someone more young and daring.
Is somebody who wants to like go and be it a little bit more adventurous and maybe
Yes,
explore some
exactly.
new things instead of saying
Yeah.
we're fine where we are.
Yeah, someone who's more curious and someone who's more bold. And yeah, that worked out magically. So
I That's really great because I think that's something else that I definitely resonate with the idea of not all things that are, like the traditional self-sabotage things versus like traditionally sort of nurturing or useful energies, right? It's like kind of the idea that, and something that I've been sort of self-talk having conversations with myself, right? Like the spiritual conversations again, right? Like think like, Abraham Hicks is one that comes to mind because it's just so like so popular and so everywhere. But it really has become something where I'm like, okay, this is really just a toxic narrative in my head now. Where if you don't vibrate the right way like a good girl, Santa's not going to bring you all your presents, right? And I'm like, I this is not a useful storyline here anymore. This no longer is assistive to me. So, like, whatever, like, you can be as correct about the rules of the universe as you want. It's no longer something that supports my moving forward. So, you got to go. Like, I can't have conversations with you anymore in my head
yes,
because it's
but
just
they
not
can
helping.
if you reflect a bit, it's always like at some point it was serving you. So you
Right.
actually rooted it as your ally at some point, maybe subconsciously, because that was pushing you forward, like, oh, like you need
Mhm.
to be a good girl. So Santa brings you presents, so that
Right.
was motivating you to be that good girl, to be that achiever. And then it's just like, so it's actually thinking, like if we can imagine that this is a creature, it thinks that it serves you, but it's just like the times change, the situation changed. You might not need it anymore. So I think it's kind of like we need to constantly review what are our allies, what is our team that support us internally, who are these inner voices, and whether they're serving or not, because we have to recruit, demote, promote as the CEOs of our life, and just
Mhm.
keep the team healthy so everyone is supporting each other. And then we can live, this like full, really, like life with no restrictions.
And isn't that what we're all looking for, is for that freedom and not being restricted, and it it all goes together, doesn't it, right? Like, the idea of having that capacity to be fluid in the way that you create your sort of, again, our team of supporters, spirit guides, people in your life, put it however you want it, right? But the ability to be fluid in that, right? Uh, because loyalty in and of itself, right? The idea of sort of loyalty as a sort of concept that we would think of as being something that is a valuable characteristic, for example, can very
Yeah.
easily become obligation. And
Yes.
right? So like loyalty to a job, loyalty to this or that belief structure, right? This or that narrative, this or that tool that you were using. It can very easily become a negative thing when it's just no longer the thing that is the optimal thing to be using right now. It's not the optimal tool or the optimal person. And so having that capacity to be fluid and let
Yes.
those things come and go, right? Like that's so much more valuable than, well, this is the it really maybe you can speak a little bit to this, but this is kind of a thought that I'm just like having a little bit, that some of the guru elements, right? Like the external things, like they're becoming their own sort of old religion in a sense,
Yes.
right? Like the new Christianity that's taking over the world
Yeah.
is like the spiritual movement, and it's trying to box us all into this like it's still a box, y'all.
Yeah.
It's still a
Yes.
box.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you were saying about this fluidity, I wanted to add there that this is actually what's being alive is. Being alive, being, you know, able to change, going with the flow, being creative, being, like just leaving, just enjoying. When we look at kids, they're exploring new things, they're trying new things, they're having fun with life. And
Mhm.
that's children, usually they're the most alive, because they don't have that box yet. So I think it's like great to have this flexible mind and flexible perspective. And that's why I love exploring different perspectives. So I love talking with people that I don't know. I love that,
Mhm.
just like talking about different topics with very, very random people.
Mhm.
Absolutely, the more random the better. And just discuss, like the same topic with different people, and you get this random perspectives, and that opens up the whole world inside of your head. And I think that's what the most important, not to get stuck, on some idea, or like, be it religion, be it the practice. Because I've been for that, I've been, like dedicated to one practice. Okay,
Mhm.
then like another practice. And you always feel kind of like a little bit guilty. It's like, oh, like I'm betraying my practice, like as the
Yeah. It be
I can't face to see my teacher, like you're kind of like starting to, take another
right.
route
And
around the yoga studio.
it's such a weird thing that we do as humans, isn't it? That like you have this thing that like becomes like a structure or something that like, okay, this is helpful for me right now and I'm doing it. And the second it becomes unhelpful and we should just like let it go and just move on to the
Exactly.
next thing. We do this like oh, but I'm being disloyal. We
Exactly.
flog
Stop
ourselves
reacting
for
as
like,
your fault.
right. Like, why do I flog myself over like this just doesn't serve me anymore? I just need to let it go. Why do I beat myself up about that? Like, it's not, it's natural. It's natural that's that at some point these
Absolutely
things just
natural.
there's seasons for a reason, right? Like it's just time for those leaves to go and you'll grow new ones, you know?
And I think that like that's the nature is actually a great example because I think we all should learn from nature. Like nature doesn't care. Oh yeah, magnificent sunset. Yeah, okay, whatever. Like done with it. Next. Nature doesn't care. Leaves, blossoms. Leaves fall down.
I
The
think of
tree.
that like when there's been like a storm or whatever. I'm big on like going hiking and stuff like that. I'm always in like I'm walking my dog in like the state park that's close by, and I have those thoughts. I am that person who's a little bit, Looney Tunes and talking to the trees, but I'm sure that, the audience is with me. But I've seen like trees after a storm that are down, right? And I'm like, those trees are not having a fuss and a fit that they fell down. They're none of them are freaking out that something's gone wrong. It's like, oh, here's a new way for me to support life together. Like vines and grasses and things can grow, mushrooms will grow out of the dead, there's so many opportunities in everything that happens. There's no part of nature that looks at a volcano or an earthquake or anything that we as humans look at as catastrophic does not look at it remotely as being a problem. It is always an opportunity.
Exactly. That's always an opportunity. And like the I think that's the best meditation is just to go on nature and
Mhm.
notice those things. Because all this brings us to the present moment. The tree doesn't think that like, oh, like yesterday I was like blossoming. So maybe
Mhm.
tomorrow I'll be, like I don't know, doing that things, the bees might come. So,
Mhm.
the tree is not the tree is like just standing, okay, whatever. Like whatever's happening in the moment, that's happening in the moment. So
Right.
it doesn't get obsessed, with like with all that. We humans, because we have brain, this beautiful but
Right?
very controversial thing
Right.
in our skull. So we have mind. And this mind constantly drags us between past, because that's the only thing that our mind knows is past. And it tries to project the future based on the past. And it tries by all means to skip the present moment, because present moment, that's the uncertainty. We don't know what's happening now. Like
Right.
this very weird, very strange. Anything can happen because like we can only be sure about past, even if we can be sure, we can't be sure because we have,
Because memory is faulty and you have
very
perception.
distorted reality.
Right. You have perception filters of it, and how do you look at memories that are forever long
Oh
ago? It's like
yeah.
I was a different person when I experienced that than I am now looking at it. If me now was in that spot, like it would have been a different situation. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like like when you're trying to speak with your ex about it, like, oh, like, but like you were that. I'm like, what? Never, no. And it's like the situations are completely different when you start discussing it. After a while, you're like, you can't be that wrong. That's
Right. You can't
I've been
perceive
friends with
that
some of my
incorrectly.
exes.
Like,
We constantly go on this memory lane, and we have like the best laughs because it's just so wrong. It's so off.
you and I
Side.
were having completely different experiences, right? It's like being in a conversation with someone and you're having two different conversations. It's
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So, like, yeah, so our memories are very unreliable. I wouldn't say that those are facts, but our
Right.
minds, that's facts, and it bends it in a way to protect us in the future. So, like, we're constantly, like alternating, and then again, like, we can't be
But
alive
but
if we're like,
the future imaginary things are also not fact, right?
no, it's not.
And that's the right,
And
that's
then
the whole
again, it's
thing.
like
It's like you're trying to extrapolate from things that are not facts to more
exactly,
to more things that are not fact. And
exactly. And
and
when
it
we're
just
like
becomes a mess.
And when we're like trying to, when our mind tries to project things in the future based on what was in the past, completely ignoring what's in the present,
Mhm.
that's that's when the problem happens. That's when we are becoming stuck, that's when
Right.
we're stuck because we're just going on the same patterns. And that's where like this meditation and mindfulness comes, useful when we're returning ourselves in the present.
Mhm.
Because in the present, it's a different situation. We might be, it's like, we're living in the age of AI. Our mind doesn't know what it is. Just a very simple example. Our mind does not know what it is. AI.
Even though we've created it.
Yeah, it's like there is no experience with it. So like, how can you predict, anything in the future?
I'm such an AI fan and nerd, and so I really love this. Like, it is so true. Like, because the way that AI is developing and the way that we're kind of learning, how do we use it? Is it to our benefit? Is it to our detriment? And I'm one who's always looking at it as like it's a tool, it's an opportunity. This is something beautiful and amazing that can grow into like who knows what kind of opportunities for humans to be more free in their day to day life, right? But we're watching it all evolve in real time. And it is
And
also
very fast. Look
very
how
fast,
it
but
goes.
and it's interesting to me too, though, the mindset and the duality that you see in, the people who see it as detrimental, that's where all the experiences are of AI being detrimental, right? And the people who see it as a tool, it's like they're the ones who are really super thriving, creating startups, seeing the opportunities. What can we do with this? How can you leverage AI to your advantage? And there are really amazing ways people are finding to do that. And it's like you're at a train station and we're leaving and going different ways, right? Like there's the AI way where everything is going Terminator. Y'all go ahead and have fun with that. And then there's the rest of us who are like, no, there's a way for this to start doing my dishes so that I don't have to. Like, let's figure that out, please. Like, I would like to have an AI robot that does my laundry and housework so that I have more free time to just sit and stare at the leaves. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's like it's all a matter of mindset, and that's
Mhm.
like that's the matter of this aliveness, and that's the matter of being happy. So like depends how you've been. Like the less you rely on your past, and the more you're being in the present, because we're look AI is present, and we're
Mhm.
looking in. So let's create from here to there. Then it becomes, wow, it's like something unexplored, in the present moment. This is happening here. So
Yeah, like that's where the
how
treasure is
cool it
that you're
can be there.
yeah.
Then they became excited. But if we look, in the past, it's like, oh, like, yeah, like the last time they invented something, I lost my job. Well, yeah, guess what?
But,
Guess what? You're completely missing what's happening now.
right,
So
and
it's
what
likely you will lose your job again.
well, but that's kind of a thing too that, when you do the doom and gloom, "Oh, I might lose my job, or I might lose this or that over this new thing." Okay, well, what might you be freed up to do if that did happen? Because it's that sort of thing too of the universe is perfect in the sense that the things that happen that look like something bad may have been well, we were trying to nudge you in a
Never,
different
never
direction.
found.
And if you had listened to us and gone that direction, sooner, it wouldn't have got to that tower card point, right? But
Everything happens for the best, everything happens for the best. And if we were like, I was just explaining it to my friend who's been a bit on the negativity wagon lately. And it was like we were talking about this gratitude journal and stuff. And I was saying
mhm,
such like, oh, like I even wrote because I was going through a very bad dental work. So like 2 years ago, I had a very bad experience with the doctors that we know in common who done a really like he damaged my tooth pretty much. So I'm doing the extraction tomorrow actually.
oh no,
Bad.
well,
And
enjoy it. I know. No, listen, let me
I'll
tell you
have
what.
that. I sent the email today to my like I was exchanging emails with my new doctor, and I'm like, I've never been so excited about tooth extraction in my whole life. She's
I
like, wow, that's like that's a
I
but like
I gotta tell you, you know what? Like, I am someone who was always afraid of the dentist. I have had a tooth pulled, but like, it makes a difference that like I was at a place where it was like super nice people, right? Really great environment, and like,
yeah. My point is that like I am so grateful for that experience 3 years ago that doctor messed up my tooth. because that set me on a 2-year journey of finding the best dentist. And on that journey, I have also explored the field of holistic dentistry, which I didn't know even existed. And
Interesting. No, that's super interesting because there's some things that I have seen recently that I was so like people who even in the 90s were starting to use like sonic frequencies to like treat teeth to help people grow teeth back who had
Mm.
lost teeth instead of implants. There's some amazing things that we humans can come up with. And
Yes, but it's like, once you've given that opportunity, so I was giving that opportunity. He pushed me into that direction. So I
right.
explored the whole field. And by tapping into the biodentistry field and like finally finding a doctor, like I spoke with like I don't know how many doctors. And I literally interviewed like enormous tons of doctors, not only in UAE, but also like, on the Zoom and I
Yeah.
spoke and I found the one that I like, but also we managed to tackle a problem that was another health, like chronic inflammation that my doctor, but like I am going with holistic medicine, like always
Mhm.
alternative, but we were trying to figure out for like 5 years, but that was related to that too, apparently. So, like I not only fixed like that problem, I also fixed like another problem, which another problem and another problem. So I
It's
fixed
like the
like
dominoes all
different
falling.
health problems was
Yeah.
just because one doctor messed it up. So I'm so grateful to that Dr. Ahmed who messed it up completely, but that have like sorted so many other issues. So if we go on this negative pattern, we would be like, oh my god, like what a bad experience, a bad doctor, yeah. But like if I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that he done that because otherwise I would never been able to face this thing that I
Right.
was like trying to figure out for years. So it's like
It's
you know,
interesting. It's kind of like you never know what, stone gets unturned that had solutions
exact.
under it that were
You never
tangential
know.
to other things, right? And I think that's
Always for
such
the
a
best. If you look at the retrospective, it's always for the best. That's what we need to train our brain. That's where the gratitude comes very handy because that's essentially rewiring our brain, being grateful for every single thing that happens. Because then we start noticing, then our brain start thinking not like, oh, there was bad experience in the past, there will be bad experience in the future. Like bam, bam, bam,
right.
bam. No, then we're like, hang on. There was this negative kind of like unpleasant experience in the past, but it turned out very nice, like 2
Right.
years plan. So maybe that negative experience can turn into positive. Our brain starts like shifting that perspective and that
See, and
changes the whole experience.
in my mind, I'm already like recreating because like I'm someone who has done the gratitude journaling and things like that. And that's something else that I've been thinking about lately where I'm like, I know I've done that and been in a really good space and like I prefer that kind of energy. But then there's this part of me that's annoyed about it when it's like, what is that sabotage person who's being annoyed that I have to do this homework of being grateful? And like I think that's kind of part of what it is there's a voice in me saying that gratitude journaling generally tells you to go pick out all the preferred things and the things that you get to like, humans traditionally label as positive or on the good side, right? That's ignoring all of those things that were quote unquote bad experiences as if they're not something meant to be grateful for. They're meant to be, pushed away. So it's that running away thing, right? Like, what are you running away from? You're running away from the negative things that were actually positive things. So, new gratitude journaling process. We will now begin thanking the universe for all of the things that piss me off first. And those will be the things that those will be the things I am grateful for first. And that's how we're going to do
Well,
it.
like here, like this topic that we're touching upon now here is basically the topic of duality, which is another very dear topic to me. Because
Please,
I'm
it
strongly,
needs to be talked about. It needs to be
I'm
talked about.
strongly against positive thinking, strongly, because this positive thinking for me it's such a evil of all evils. Because positive thinking wires us to pick, this is good, this is bad.
this is white, this is black. So it wires us. This is where opportunities come from. This can't be an opportunity.
We always divide the world. We divide the world in two. That's duality. And when the world is dualistic, yes, like the day and the night and so on. But like this constant division and labeling good and bad creates us, kind of like moving away from the things that we label bad, or we don't talk about it. We don't deal with that. It's like somewhere in the air. Like I don't want to think about it. Oh, don't mention it. Like we go through like those stages on the positive and go, oh no, positive vibes only. No, let's not talk about it. Like this. Like we all know those people.
Right. And it becomes, you can bury it in glitter if you want to, but that doesn't make it go away.
Exactly. And that also causes so much stress because we're constantly, like firefighting. It's like, oh, like this is negative, but we need to deal with it, blah, blah, blah. When we remove that labeling, as simple as that. So we remove the meaning of the things that's happening to us. It's no longer good. It's no longer bad. It is just is.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like this is the glass. Good, bad, it's a glass,
Right.
I had a tooth problem. Good, bad, it doesn't matter. I had a tooth problem. That's it. Like, there was a pain in the tooth. It's not good. It's not bad. That's the fact. I need to deal with it. That's it. Once we remove that and we turn it into a fact and we don't assign a meaning to it, like, oh, I had a tooth pain and I was in pain and it was like bad and I wasted money and I wasted time and it's like definitely bad. And, once we start bringing that meaning, we remove the emotion. There is no emotion. No emotions, there is no reaction to it. So we don't react.
And then you don't get because the emotion you attach to it is like, that's the power of that vortex that sucks you down that thought loophole that you don't want to be in anyway.
You. And it's just like, it just drains your energy. And it drains energy both. Like negative, positive, whatever. It's like you're wasting your energy on reacting on something.
Right.
That you don't necessarily need to. So removing that gives a lot of freedom. And that brings a lot of power back to you because you don't waste energy on those like
right, like not investing
Just,
your energy in the things that you don't want to invest your energy in anyway, right?
Exactly.
And I really
simpler. The life is much simpler, and like like if we look even in the tantric concept, like the yoga nidra that comes from, it's all about duality, like removing duality. Like in yoga nidra, we say once you remove duality, you remove all the sufferings because you just stop suffering. You don't care. It's not good. It's not bad. Things just happening. Life is unfolding. Just be curious about everything that comes your way. That's it. Removes completely all the drama.
I love that. And I think definitely also good to like that curiosity element, right? Like being in the now moment and having a curiosity about not that fear of the unknown, right? The like, I'm right here, right now, and I don't know what's going to come next. How about like switch it to the curiosity of,
Yeah.
oh, I wonder what I could find here. I wonder what there might be here that could be fun. I wonder what, the curious element that, and again, like you said, like that's how kids are. They're in awe of their environment and the things that are available to them to play with. What could I do with this rock? What could I do with this? What do I, having that sort of in the moment ability to be curious and be open to what are the possibilities in front of me, right? And that it's definitely a better space to be in than the constant, past future trying to figure out, I didn't like this past thing. How do I create the opposite over here? Sort of that linear thinking that we get stuck
Create
in.
only from the present, in all honesty, like it or not, we create from the present. That's when the real creation happens. We don't create in the past because the past is over. That's done deal. So we can only create in the present. And basically all practices that we have, all spiritual practices, all mindfulness practices, they're all about bringing us to the moment, being in now, like power of now, be in the present, live in the moment, all that cliches, but that actually what works. So all meditations are for centering you, for bringing you into the moment. When we're having like fears, like an anxiety, panic attacks, what's the advice? Start breathing. Breathing brings us into the moment
Mhm.
because we have a panic attack. Oh, like because our brain thinks something is gonna happen and we die. But like if we realize that, listen, I'm sitting here, I'm breathing, I'm okay. In
Right.
this, I'm okay. So
Mhm.
just like come here, nothing is happening, and
Mhm.
that's what calms us down. And I think that that's the easiest way to deal with fears. Like if it's like some irrational fears that are just keep on coming up, sure, we can work with them through like coaching and therapy and
Mhm.
different techniques. Sooner or later, we'll figure it out. But when they happen in the moment, I always say that if you're like having this fear, irrational fear, that's the mind either in the past or most likely in the future, projecting the past and like not
Mhm.
being here. So I always come back. I'm like, okay, I'm here. Anything to be afraid of now, here? No, nothing.
Right.
Nothing's happening. Okay, we don't know what's happening next moment. So what are we afraid of? Nothing. Chill. Let's chill. Okay.
Nothing. There's nothing happening now. You don't know if there will be the next moment, but it doesn't mean that you have to be terrified that the next moment's gonna fill up with monsters because you're not trying to like hold the gate shut. And I think that's, that I think is a little bit part of it too, right? That when you have that sort of toxic positivity element, it's like, okay, well, now you've made yourself the guardian at the door of all things negative and you have to hold that door closed. How much effort is it to keep that door shut? And
A
to
lot of effort, and it's also deprives you of this experience, like of life fully,
Mhm.
because life is full of different things. And like, yes, we can label them good and bad, but they're like just this the whole spectrum.
Right.
If we don't allow ourselves to feel all of the spectrum, we're kind of limited. So it's like I often have clients that come, especially women. They're like, "Oh, like I'm never angry. No, 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 I don't feel anger." I'm like, "What do you mean? You have to feel rage because you're a woman. You're like,
I'm gonna
what if you need to protect your child? Like, what do you mean you never get angry? It's your birthright. Because if you don't feel anger at all, you also don't feel, love. You don't
Mhm.
feel joy. You don't feel pain. Okay. Like you're never sad. Well, I'm pretty sure you can't really feel joy either. So it's like,
Right.
there,
If
there,
you're
it's a
numb to
range.
those things, right, then you're numb to all of it. Which
Yeah.
is something that, when you're looking at again like the holistic or the alternative medicines, like I am someone who like used to be on like antidepressant medication, right? And it's
Mm,
like it does. You become so it's like, okay, I'm
no,
not panicking, but I'm also not really enjoying very, deeply either, right?
yes.
Like the zombie element of that. Like
Yeah.
that's not where I'm trying to be, right?
Yeah.
And that I think too, like there's something in the spiritual sort of industry now, right? That is like kind of it is that same element in the sense of, oh, you just have to like get yourself to that place of being like neutral and at peace and all these other emotions and all this other roller coaster of life. Like you can, extract yourself from that permanently. And it's like, well, but the amusement park of the human experience that which includes all of the like my having my tantrum days and my having my right, it's like, well, it's all part of it and I came for all of it. So it can't be
Right.
that it's wrong for you to like have those days when you're like angry with the universe and or that, because that the opposite of that are the days when I like appreciate the smallest things in the biggest ways, right? It's like, and you couldn't have one without the other.
Yes, exactly. So it's like when we numb one thing, then we numb the rest. And it's not productive. Our
No.
soul came to this world to enjoy the human body experience. So it
Mhm.
wants to enjoy. It wants to, be angry and be sad and cry on the floor and
Right.
jump from, joy. So it's like all this. I want to be able to laugh and I want to be able to be like very angry with someone
Mhm.
and like be in pain. And that's okay because all that, I remember one healer told me very beautiful thing. he said, "Stop healing your heart, please." It's like you're good. You're good. Stop healing your heart because yes, you have a lot of cracks. I can see that you've been through a lot of pain. You heal all of them, then you won't have the light passing through. So
No.
just those cracks there, they make you beautiful. That's what makes this beautiful light pattern when the light comes through your heart. Then stop, like that mending like your heart. And I found it so beautiful because that's true. That's what made me who I am. I had
You
like
know,
lots of different experiences, and it's like that's okay. And it's like my heart is so cranked open, like
right?
through all the painful experiences, but I can laugh like nobody else. I
Mm.
can laugh fully, and that's the joy of it.
I love that. No, that is absolutely beautiful. The idea that like the light pattern coming through the cracks, right? Like, why would you want to make everything uniform and the same by like let's we don't need to heal everybody perfect and make everyone, uniform CGI versions of things, like the other thing I was thinking of was like what old pottery from I don't know, when back in the day when the pottery instead of like fixing
The
a crack, they
kintsugi,
would
the kintsugi, the Japanese when they mended it was gold.
with gold, yes. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
That yes.
kintsugi art. That's the real concept of self-love because self-love, what we think as self-love, what we've been sold to as a society.
Mhm.
Self-love is like, oh, like treating yourself was a day at spa, and just
Yeah.
like what like indulge. No, self-love is loving your cracks, loving yourself when you're in anger, when you're in
Mhm.
rage, loving yourself when you're crying on the bathroom floor, loving yourself in any shape and form, loving your cracked heart, having your distorted body. It's fine. That's self love. Not all that, flashy, fancy
Right.
things.
The
It's the
the
real self.
idea that I am just fine the way that I am and I don't need to go searching for the next person who's gonna tell me the next thing I need to do to be more perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Just embrace who I am. And that's the self love.
I love it. Beautiful message for all the audience. I do think I do want to be mindful of your time because I know you are on the other side of the world to me. So it's you are in the night times, which is kind of fun. But do tell everyone because this has been such a wonderful conversation. I think you and I could talk for hours on these
Yeah.
things. Absolutely. But tell everyone where to find you so that they can come and find more of your content and more of your wonderful wisdom.
I think the easiest way to connect with me is for Instagram. So I'm a big Instagrammer. So I'm constantly there, like every hour, probably like a little bit too addicted. But yeah, it's Jana as Jana dot bean to being. That's my personal Instagram and my like professional one. So I just blended everything into one.
Mhm.
My website is bean2being.com. And yeah,
And
I'm
I will put all them
LinkedIn.
links in
Yeah.
the description below, and everyone must go find you. And again, uh, I love all of these conversations, and I do think that we need to get some pretty princess castles, like we talked about before we started, and just have neighboring pretty princess castles where we get to like cheers our coffee to each other, from my balcony across to yours. Like,
And marshmallows on the fire coming out of the dragon.
and then 100%. That is, oh, now we need to have an offline conversation about all the synchronicities that I have to unpack in that little statement you just made. I love how that just happened. Thank you so much for being with me, friend. This has been a beautiful conversation, and I do so love all the things that you're doing, and I really love the energy that you have to put out into the world. I am so happy you joined me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi again, friend. Frankie here. Thanks for joining us today to get the 411. You can get more details on today's guests by checking out the links in the description. And if you'd like to support more episodes of the Frankie 411 podcast, you can become a patron at patreon.com/Frankie was here and find all of my other social media links down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a review, do all those things that you wonderful listeners can do. Until next time, much love to you, my earthbound and cosmic friends, wherever you are out there. I hope you're doing well.